experience with that. Our general response is you don't respond to it and you get rid of it. When people tend to leave negative comments, they're not looking to let their mind be known, they're looking to get a response out of you, otherwise they would just keep their comments to themselves and not watch your stuff anymore. If they're making a comment, that means they're looking for something, and that something is generally a negative response. So our response to that is either to A, ignore them, or B, just delete the messages entirely. We've had people comment about how we delete negative messages off our YouTube, for example, but ultimately we want to look back at those and see the supportive messages, the messages that saying how much we've made people laugh, how much they've enjoyed it, how we've inspired them. Messages of people saying, oh, you could be skinnier, aren't really helpful to anyone, neither us or the people reading the comments. So we see absolutely zero value in them, and if we see zero value in it, then we get rid of it.
Matt, if you want to sort of chime in on this particular issue about sort of social media, particularly when it comes to, you know, sort of cyberbullying, people making horrible, you know, if you're on, because you're on several different groups, sort of talking about how to deal with it when people are rude, and maybe some example.
Okay. In terms of things, what you've got to remember about the internet is that yes, there's a lot of like-minded people out there, but at the same time, it's a breeding ground for sleaze. I mean, it's anybody who's just out to cause a problem. Yeah, they're out there. As my small colleagues here have actually quite rightly said, that if anybody says anything derogatory, or like say, you know, you could be skinnier, or that could be half a centimetre, you know, anything like that, the best thing to do is to ignore them. But if they keep on pushing, and the one thing that's, especially going around the Doctor Who community, because that's where my experience comes from, the Doctor Who community, is that you do have a lot of people who say, well, that's not very screen accurate, is it? I said, well, neither is your face. That's about as you know, as tough as you can get on the subject. Simply because if they start cussing you and then you do what they want you to do, is, you know, to bite back, and it turns into a Facebook war, and which anybody who's ever been in a Facebook argument knows it can get nasty, it can get personal really quickly, you know. So it's comments like that. If you have to make a comment, it's to say something that will just utterly deflate the situation completely, you know. Rather than say, well, I got my costume from this person, and this person actually got the actual screen accurate. So does it matter? I mean, who are you trying to impress by saying that you have spent X number of thousands and hundreds of pounds on this something that you probably never take out in public? Who are you trying to impress by saying that yours is better than everybody else's? And that's the problem you got. And that's why, I mean, the internet is a lovely, lovely, lovely place. I mean, you've got, everyone these days has got a cosplay page, which is a lot safer than having, people that you don't know from conventions on your own personal Facebook page. You open the screen and says, I saw you at a convention, you were brilliant, you were marvellous. That's brilliant. But it's amazing how many people will follow you just to cause a problem. So the best way to do is to, either ignore them, delete them, or if you can, deflate the situation. That's what I tend to do. But then again, if someone says against anything against me, I'll push back. So.
I mean, I think the other thing is with social media, and this is particularly a relevant issue for women, particularly when someone is particularly inappropriate on social media. I don't know if you guys have come across someone who may have made slightly sexual remarks, like sort of very inappropriate remarks. It's kind of like, you don't need to say that about my body or what my costume, whatever. Have you ever come across that at all, like on your page?
We're relatively lucky in that the costumes we choose to do are generally quite bulky armoured costumes. And I got the confidence once to do Dark Talon, which is very much not a bulky armoured costume. It's full body paint and very little skin coverage. And I was extremely nervous about doing it because I know I'm not the thinnest person in the world. I may not have the most impressive figure in the world, but I wanted to do it, so I did. And you sort of get the thing of, you have every 100 comments, there would be one person who had something negative to say, like, oh, you could have toned your legs up a bit better. Oh, you could have worn a better bra with this, things like that. But the way I managed to push that aside was not a single person said anything negative to my face. When I was going around the convention, all I had was people complimenting it, people asking for photos, people asking how various things were done. I had a lady who was a professional tattoo artist with me all day doing my makeup, so people were then asking her about her makeup techniques. And in my opinion, if someone doesn't have the confidence to say something to your face where you can physically respond to them, then they probably don't actually have a lot of feeling in their words anyway. If you really believe in what you're saying, you will say it to someone in person. If you don't, you take it to the internet where you know that you cannot be physically, or verbally attacked in response, which is what a lot of people are afraid of.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually had, because obviously this costume is not very, I'm sort of doing Rule 63, so it's not, and it's quite covered up. But I have had ones which are not quite so covered up. Perfectly fine costumes, perfectly all right. I've actually had it said to my face. Basically, I was, one particular incident, I was dressed as Barb from Barbed Wire, for anyone who's a B-movie fan. Yeah, I was dressed like that. Nothing too terrible. I was quite covered up. And I was walking back to a hotel I was staying at with my partner and some of our friends. And he was dressed in this big, bulky Blackwall Greymont costume. Of course, he wasn't in the position to do anything. He just had to follow instruction on where to go, because he couldn't see very well. And whilst that was happening, he was getting some pictures on this bridge. These two people decide to come up from the way and decide to make some comments. I'm not repeating, but decided to make some comments about my body. And because I'm the kind of person who will defend myself, I yelled back and basically said, you don't get to say stuff about me. You do not get to make those kind of comments. That's disgraceful. You need to basically reevaluate yourself. And then I was sort of shuffled away. But my partner sort of wisely went, yeah, we need to go now. But generally the important thing is, obviously, because the only reason I yelled back was because because there were two blokes and they were quite big, I actually thought I could have been in a physical issue. So I thought, well, I'll defend myself, it'll be fine. But online, I've had a lot more online, but generally you can ignore them because, again, as you very rightly said, either they don't have a lot of feeling to what they're saying because they're saying it online and they're not brave enough to say it to your face, or they are very much cowardly. I had someone who anonymously went on a blog which had nothing to do with cosplay that I run, and they made some pretty horrible comments where they basically said that I was only leeching off the talents of a far superior male cosplayer who was my partner, and they did it anonymously, and I thought, oh come on. I got annoyed, but I was also like, yeah, you couldn't have just said it to my face or maybe actually revealed your name. It's one of those things, like I sort of largely ignored it, but at the same time it was a bit irritating, because you do get keyboard warriors.
Oh yes. Yeah, the only problem that you have with keyboard warriors, I think it was interesting that you mentioned about comments against women's figures, if their figure suits their character. I'll tell you something, chaps have this problem massively as well. So, let's say I wanted to dress as David Tennant's Doctor. Fat chance. It's amazing if you announce. If you announce these things and say, right, my next costume, I'm going to be doing a David Tennant cosplay, and it's going to be guaranteed someone's going to say, but you're not thin. Why are you going to do that? Because I want to. Seriously. And what annoys me is that on the internet you also have a lot of people that are aware of size in relation to character. So, the example a few years ago, there was a convention runner, which I won't name names, but he was infamous for saying, why do fat people only ever do the Seventh Doctor and stuff like that? So shouldn't he be doing Mario or something like that? They were very, it was evil. It was hurtful. So really, and that's the kind of keyboard warriors. They hide in their little caves, powered by Facebook. I said nobody can touch me because my mum's locked the door. And it's amazing. But like you say, they don't say it to your face. Whereas, in public say, oh my God, you look awesome, I can't believe it. And then they walk away and go, cow. Yeah. I just don't understand. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But like I say, it's the best way to get back at them is to keep doing it at any rate. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you are this thing or if, like me, you're out there. And you know, the more that you keep on doing stuff that you love, it'll take them down us, because eventually they're going to say, we're not winning, we're just going to go away and lead our sad lives, whereas we're just going to stand back and say, yes, we are awesome. And the camera lady's just gone.
Fab, and I think that's actually quite a good point, just doing what you love doing, because obviously you guys are having a great time and you're doing very well with what you're doing. And actually I just wanted to ask on a more, to sort of wrap things up in a more positive note, what are you actually planning to do at the moment? What are your plans at the moment?
I think these are pretty much it. We've been working on these for the past week. We've got them in a wearable condition, and now it's a case of let's see what falls off or doesn't fit or moves in the wrong way, take them back, fix them up, and then a bunch of us are going over to Metricon in Florida, where we'll be wearing these again and enjoying them in the nice Florida humidity. And that will hopefully be sort of a version 2 of these, where we'll sort of tighten everything up and where needed, fix things up, and hopefully come back with better costumes.
And Matt, just for you, what advice would you give to someone if they're having a difficult time, like they want to get into cosplay but people have been picking on them for what they want to do? What kind of advice would you give?
Well, to the naysayers, I say knickers to them. No, like I said before, if you want to do something, just like Chloe said, just do it. You know, I'm not doing the LaBouche thing. Do it. Isn't it wonderful to have support? Well, I think it's all depends on, like I say, what you want to do. I mean, personally, what I want to do is I want to try and raise the profile of Doctor Who cosplayers in this country, because the one thing you've got in this country, you've got an awful lot of doctors. You've got the modern doctors, and the classic doctors are really coming to mind. But where are the classic monsters? I mean, this is the thing about social media. One thing I can say is that I envy the Americans so much. I mean, I was looking at photos of a Doctor Who convention a couple of months ago, and they do Doctor Who monsters from the 60s and the 70s. You don't see that over here. Why don't you see that over here? Because I think that social media in this country is a lot more judgmental, but I can go on for that for hours. So basically, it's a question of, if you want to do a white robot that was in 2 episodes of a Pat Troughton episode, and if you want to go to Comic-Con, just, really just absolutely go for it. Because you're guaranteed that you've got the right mates behind you, right? They're saying, right, you get in the costume, well, we've got you. And that's the thing, never think that you're on your own, because you're guaranteed someone's got your back. And that, it's just a question of, who's going to support you. Yeah, and that is the massive thing. Now I'm going to hand this back over now.
And that's probably a good way to end it, have people who've got your back. You've got great support, and there's not much you can't do when you've got some great people behind you. And on that note, we will be ending this talk. I'd like to give a giant thanks to Parle Productions over here for coming in and talking about media. I'll see you. I'll be back. We'd like to thank WalsallMatt here for contributing on the social media side of things, so thank you very much. I am Drewett Cosplay. You have been listening to Cosplay and Media Talk. And about 2:30, we will be having the masquerade starting with people who have entered the masquerade. If you could be ready to be queued at 2 o'clock, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, have a wonderful time. Wycombe Comic Con.